Good afternoon, ladies and gents, and you join me for an on-foot tour, Plaistow to Forest Gate. The Black Lion we're at the moment, Plaistow High Street, and we're going to be walking to the Spotted Dog pub, which is in a bit of a sorry state nowadays. I'll get it on to the subject of it very quickly and get it over with, because these supposed tunnels that ran from here are supposed to have run all the way to Upton Lane, where we will be going, and our journey will give you some idea of the length involved, or the distance involved. Kind of debunks it a bit, but they may have been real, they may have not. We shall leave it at that and get off the subject of tunnels and on to our main subject for today, which is our on-foot tour. Hope everyone's well. We're on the high street at Plaistow at the moment. Victoria Tavern just coming up on the left there, but we're going round this way. I don't know how long this walking tour will be. I've never walked this one on foot, so I don't think it will take massively long. If it's over the 35 minutes, I'll have to YouTube it. I forgot about that with my St Andrew Undershaft church video. It was over the 35 minutes and I forgot to put it on, and the sound was missing off the end bit. So I had to tag the link on for YouTube for that one. If anyone wants to catch the little bit of sound at the end. It's Facebook, I don't know what they're playing at. A lot of people are having problems with their notifications, which I'm having. And my long running problem is any video over 35 minutes and so many seconds long, it gets taken off. I'll have to point you this way a minute because some kids coming, or someone with a kid. Point you this way. And we are on Clegg Street, for anyone that doesn't know the area. And we'll be going up over this bridge at the end here. Shouldn't take too long, this journey. We hope. The Black Lion, thankfully, is still open, and the Spotted Dog, sadly, isn't, and it's in a poor state. At the end of the video there'll be a history segment on the Spotted Dog. I mean, because it was first supposed to have started life as a hunting lodge for Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn, because the Boleyns had links to the area, and so did the King, because it was a forest in those days, countryside and forest. Waltham Forest it was under the jurisdiction of, which then became Epping Forest. And Forest Gate, the area, is called Forest Gate because the forest was gated, and to get through it you had to have royal consent or official permission to go in the forest, otherwise you could be done for poaching. That's why Forest Gate is called Forest Gate. And Green Gate, for the same reason. Toll Gate and stuff like that. So yeah, anyone that remembers the area as it was, you'll be in for a little bit of a shock, because things have changed a lot. So. The Spotted Dog's a Grade 2 listed building. I mean, it was supposed to have someone said it was going to open up as a takeaway, and then there was a big opposition to that, because I read that people wanted to open it up, the locals wanted to open it up as an Indian restaurant, and there was opposition. And it's been shut since, and it's been shut a long time. And the London Fire Brigade did a safety assessment on the building about 2 years ago, and the floors in there are now deemed structurally unsound. Wow. That woman and that man had an argument. He bumped into her. I don't know what was said. She said, "Watch where you're going, you pussy clot." I ain't doing the accent. Not a happy lady. That's the thing now. And so many people have got their heads buried in the phone that they either crash into people or even worse, walk into the road. Sorry. And I've done that one myself. So yeah. Anyone that says phones don't impair your senses, they are knaves and liars. Right, and we are going to cross over here in a minute when this silver car goes. We're on Terrace Road at the moment, by the way, for anyone that don't know the area. This building was closed for a long time. Derelict when I was younger. Really run down and that. And I think it's some kind of social housing or something now, I think. I could be wrong. Room to let. And we are now going on to Stopford Road. Oh, there's a road sign there. I needn't have done that, but there we are. In the 1881 census, my great great grandmother Henrietta, she was a domestic servant for a doctor that lived in one of the houses along here. I'll show you which one. She got married 5 years later though. In those days, if you were a domestic servant and you got married, you had to leave service. Doesn't mean that she stopped working and stuff, but it's one of these houses coming up here on the right, just over there. We'll be coming up to Plaistow Park and everything soon. I'm just pointing you up a minute because there's a couple of young lads in front of me and I don't like filming people without their consent. Not very fair. Cheers mate, thank you. That was decent, let me go in front. We are coming up to the house now. Life as a domestic servant in the early 1880s wasn't always the most pleasant one. Oh, sorry. Number 59, that's the house. Yeah, 1881 census, Henrietta Shipp. She was domestic servant there, so living quarters or whatnot would have been at the bottom bit. Or working quarters. And I don't think it's going to be a massively long walk, this one. I may snag a picture of Henrietta at the end if you're interested. I won't know unless the video goes on, but I'll probably snag a picture of her on. It's part of the history. Don't know much about her other than that father was a greengrocer in Canning Town, Joseph Shipp. Mother's name was Henrietta too. Big age gap between the mum and the dad. Dad was born in 1826 and her mum was born in 1841. Dad died in 1896, right at the end of it, winter time, and she died just a few months after him. Of heart disease, apparently. Well, that's what it says on the death certificate, heart disease. So, That's just a wee smidge of my lineage. Yeah, so greengrocer's daughter. In those days, most East End girls ended up in domestic service or something like that, which would have started quite young. Catch her in 1881, as I say on the census. And yeah, domestic servant, living in. Picture I'll show is of her at a wedding in 1904, her son's wedding. And funny enough, well, not funnily enough, but interestingly enough, she died just a few months after her husband, Charles Lee. We're not going down this road, we're just going to have a look at the pub. Charles Lee, he died in 1918, and she died, I think it was 4 or 5 months afterwards, of stomach cancer in Poplar Hospital. It was unusual for people to die in hospital in those days, and I looked into it for what records are available, and there isn't much. And it was basically, she was in there because the pain wasn't manageable at home. She had cancer of the duodenum. Her grandson, my granddad, died of exactly the same thing. Anyway, that's enough about me and my family history. The Lamb pub you've just seen there on Crescent Road, for any of you that used to drink in it. I will have to point you up, down or somewhere in a minute, because there's a lady coming along with a pram. Learning centre. I'll point you up. Well, I'll pause you actually. There we are. We are off. There's a lady coming along with a baby in a pram. Well, this definitely ain't going to be over 35 minutes, I don't think, unless the history takes up more time at the end. I do want to show pictures of the spotted dog, how it was years ago. The old Victorian houses are nice, aren't they? These terraced houses. This area, Plaistow, East Ham, Forest Gate, was a little bit posher if you owned a house. People like dentists, doctors, shop owners, things like that. And I mean owned shops and whatnot. Not like Henrietta's father. Henrietta's father may have been a greengrocer, but he rented his shop in Canning Town. And when he died, he, like so many Canning Town and West Ham residents, ended his days in a common grave. I don't know what it is, people. I laugh, it always chuckles me. People have this need to bib when they see you filming, to beat their horns. That's a nice old house. That's the one that was empty for years, not the one that I went to down the other way. Let's cross over quick before we get ourselves killed. This is the one that was empty, and it no longer is. So there we are, and we're now on Upton Lane. So if we were going in a straight direction from the Black Lion, just imagine the way we're going. It's a distance. It's for them to have dug tunnels from one pub to another pub in those days. They would have had to have expert engineers. And an interesting suggestion someone else made recently, and it is true, if the tunnels were real, they were more likely to have been made earlier than Turpin and Dick Turpin and that. And if they were likely to have been built by or for religious institutions. Don't forget, you had Barking Abbey, Stratford Langthorne Abbey, quite a lot. Then you had priory churches. There was a lot of religious institutions, much more, especially in those days before the Reformation. And bearing in mind this was the countryside, so it was a nice place to be. Certainly wasn't built up. I'll just point you this way a minute because someone's coming along on a bike. And we'll be arriving at the Spotted Dog soon, because it's not too far at the end of this road. This here is an absolutely beautiful park. It really is nice. They look like the arboretum and that. Very nice, such pretties. It felt cold this morning, but now it feels anything but cold. All clammy now. Thank God I didn't put 2 jackets on. Shipp Park, and you've got all the gardens and green spaces and everything over that way. Obviously there's a lot of kids around at the moment, so we can't have a tour of the park, I'm afraid. We'll be coming up to a school in a minute that may be an old haunt for some of you ladies and gents. Danger of death. How exciting. St Bonaventure's is the school. I can remember its name. Yeah, that's the school. She's changed a smidge, probably, since your days. No, it hasn't actually. It looks pretty old, the building behind it. Obviously I can't go film in schools, it's a weekday. I've had a few people ask me about filming certain schools, which I'm more than happy to do, but it will have to be, it's a 6 weeks bastard holidays, isn't it? Silly person. That's St Bonaventure's anyway over there. Yeah. When the schools are closed, basically. Pause you a sec. Off we go. This in here is where they grow West Ham Park. This is, sorry, not Plaistow Park, West Ham Park. This is where they grow a lot of the plants and things for the parks in the borough. In there, where the council grow all their plants and seedlings and whatever for other parks. Lancaster Road. You've got another couple of old houses coming up. Well, they're almost, quite a few of them are old. You can see little patches here and there where bits were knocked out in the Second World War. I think there was 1 or 2 bomb strikes in the First World War along here as well. See, a lot of people don't realise that they did have air raids, nothing like the extent of the Blitz, but they did have air raids in the First World War. And the Spotted Dog is just at the end of this road, so that's our location. These here were almshouses. They started off their life as almshouses for elderly pensioners. Land donated, houses built by a rich person, or the money left in the will, or something like that. Yeah. I do believe they've covered the sign over, or removed it. What's that say? No, they haven't. And I'm going to have to zoom in on that because my sight isn't too good. That is Meg's almshouses. So, another little bit of history. I don't know if they're still at almshouses or charitable houses of some kind. They look like flats now. Look, been turned into flats. So yeah, it's Meg's almshouses. Do you know, all my childhood, early teens, late teens, early 20s, I never once suffered from hay fever. And now I am suffering from hay fever as I've got older. I don't know why. Stratford School Academy, this one. New build looking thing by the looks of it. 21 minutes, that's not too bad. If I can keep it under 35 with the history, it'll be straight Facebook. If not, then I shall have to thingamajig, do it on YouTube. Sorry, I was just looking at something. To be very careful because this area is somewhat dodgy. I'll go this way because the lady's coming along. But yeah, we're coming up to the Spotted Dog now, which is just at the end. A lot more old houses with basement areas below, which would have been servants' quarters in the original day. Ham Park Road. So Ham Park was an estate after East Ham and such like. See, in our area, a lot of people think that there isn't that much history left, but there's a lot. And we are coming up to a piece of it now. Which is the Spotted Dog pub, which sadly is in a very, very poor state, as you will see. We'll do the back bit of it first, and then the front bit. But yeah, this was originally a hunting lodge, believed to have been used by Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn. Whether that is true or not, I do not know, but yeah. It's a shame, because it was a really nice pub. I only ever went to this pub once with my granddad Mark. Late teens, Sunday, had a pub lunch and a beer. And it was a really nice pub. It really was. Oh, it smells of shit round here. Oh, I'm not talking dog muck either, that smells like human. You can see the state of the old place just falling apart. And as I say, last time the fire brigade did a observation of it, shall we say, it was deemed structurally unsound inside. We're on Upton Lane now. Yeah, that's a Spotted Dog, what a shame. When I was a young boy, they used to have a car boot sale in the car park of the Spotted Dog every Sunday morning. And it wasn't bad. It wasn't a big car boot sale, obviously, because it's only a small car park. But it wasn't bad. And here we have the Spotted Dog pub. What a sorry sight that is, eh? Just taking a picture of that. So you can see the old higgledy-piggledy shaped roof. But yeah, the fire brigade said the floors inside are structurally unsound now. So it's just a shame, isn't it? A real crying shame. And you can see where it's the old low doors and everything that you would have originally. This is where we went in, me and my granddad, through this door here, and there were stairs inside that took you up to like a mezzanine level, and that's where we sat. So yeah, that is the Spotted Dog pub, and we will probably get the whole thing done in 25 minutes because we've got 35 minutes because we've got another 10 left on this. So the end part of this one is just going to be the history of the Spotted Dog, some pictures of it years ago and whatnot and that. Anyway, join me for that part of the video. And to start us off with our little look back into the past, I thought I'd actually start us off where we began our journey, which was the High Street on Plaistow. And this is that in 1909. Very different view to what we began with, isn't it, eh? With tram lines and tram wires and people dressed so differently, much smarter than we dress now. The ladies in long skirts as well. This is the 20th of July 1931, and it's quite rare to get such a precise date with a photo like that, and I like this image because it's a real window into the past. You can see the ladies' skirts have got a little bit shorter, not by much, but a little bit. We're showing some ankles. There's a couple of dogs in the road, trams and motorised traffic by this time. The Black Lion pub. This is a comedy kind of sketch thing from the 1950s or 60s, and it hangs in the pub. So pause to read if you want to, because I'm scrolling on now. And I love this image. This is 1960s or 70s, and it shows a typical old London girl sat outside the Black Lion pub, and I like an image like this. 1970s or 80s, and a lady and a gentleman, either from my own page or one of the others, I forget because I do get sent a lot of images and stuff. The lady said that when she remembered years ago that she thought there was a figure that was in one of the upper windows, and the bloke said yes there was, because she didn't know whether she was remembering right, but the bloke said yes she was, and one of them sent me a thumbnail with the image, from which I was able to find the original, which is this. And if you look at one of the upper windows over to the left side, you'll indeed see the figure of a man, and it's not a real living man, it is a wooden or cardboard cutout. Possibly a gimmick for the pub, or possibly one of those things to hold open broken sash windows. This is the old Black Lion boxing gym, 1970s, the entrance into it through the stable yard door and whatnot. Shame that's gone. Henrietta, 59 Romford Road, domestic servant, my ancestress. As I said, I would share an image of her. She was very young when she was a domestic servant, in her teens, and that was in the 1880s. This picture was taken on the 31st of July 1904 at 22 Rendell Road, Canning Town, and it's the wedding of Henrietta's son to Elizabeth Webb, the couple in the middle. And Henrietta, of course, is marked with a blue arrow. Directly above her is my great-great-grandfather Charles Lee, and the lady right next to them with her hand on Henrietta's shoulder is their daughter, Henrietta, or Hetty Jr. And this is a colorised image of it. You can see the family's got all their best on for the occasion. 31st of July 1904, 22 Rendell Road, Canning Town. So that's a little window into my past. And that's enough of my family history, and on to our main location that was for today, for this bit of the walk anyway. The Spotted Dog pub. Spotted Dog pub dates back to the late 15th or early 16th century, and believed to have been used as a hunting lodge by Henry VIII. So it's a long and prestigious history. It's quite a famous pub as well, and always has been. The earliest image I could find is this 1832 drawing by Richenda Cunningham. 1880s. And I like this image. It's a colorised postcard, and it wasn't colorised by me, it was hand tinted back in its original day. And they did that with postcards. You would have had to pay a bit more for the coloured ones, but there you go. But the two blokes standing outside, one of them could possibly be James Voss, or Vals, who was the landlord. Right from early days, I mean the earliest landlord we've got is, bear with me, of the Vouse name is William Vouse, who is James Vouse's father. That's 1880s. 1890s, and these young lads possibly are the children of the Vouse family. And I like these little colorized postcards, and it shows, as I say, a window into the past and a lovely old pub, and it's a crying shame it's gone the way it has. An advert from the late 1800s to early 1900s promoting the Spotted Dog pub at the time when it had leased off a lot of its land to accommodate sporting facilities such as cricket and football. Spotted Dog owned a fair little chunk of land back in its day. And this is the early 1900s, this one. This is 1903. I like this one. Painting by H. Smart, Newham Archives. And this is my favourite image because in the image are included members of the Vouse family. James Vouse is passed on by this time, and his wife Sarah A.H. Vouse, publican, she took over the pub, and she was a distinguished landlady and a 50-year career at this pub, and she is one of the ladies in this picture. You see 3 blokes or 3 men over to the left. They are believed to be the sons and grandsons of Sarah A.H. Vouse. Slightly to their right is a little figure in black, and that is Sarah A.H. Vouse, and she was the publican. And further over to the right are 2 figures also in black, and they're believed to be her daughters. And the fact that the ladies are all dressed in black shows that they possibly would have had a death in the family at the time. So that's a little bit of the history of that. And the Vouse family. We'll be on to more of those in the list of publicans. 1936 this image is, and it is a photograph, but it's a photograph of a newspaper clipping or photo in a newspaper, so it's a bit blurred. But the title of this one was Hard Times. So after the Great Depression and everything, the pub was getting a little bit run down. Come the 1980s, it was patched up, repaired, some renovations and stuff like that, and was thriving. And this is how I and many of you will remember this pub. It's a lovely little pub, and as I say, it's a crying shame to see what's happened to it today, isn't it really? 29th of March 2003, exactly 1 year before the pub closed. Pub closed in 2004. As of 2014, it's been permanently boarded up and in the sorry state we see it in today. And now on to the list of publicans, which takes us from 1826 more or less up to the current time. So join me for that bit. And I've been able to find this list online of its publicans or landlords from 1826 right up until the very last one. So this gives you a gist of who was running the pub. As you can see, it was in the Vouse family for quite a bit, through different members of the Vouse family as well. The Vauces disappear and then come back again, so it makes you wonder if they had special links or connections to the place that they kept coming back. And this is on census material and whatnot, so you get a little bit more details there. Ellen A. Vouse, Sarah A.H. Vouse, publican, and then you've got her daughter Ellen, daughter and barmaid. Mary A. Vouse, daughter, milliner's assistant, that daughter was, so she wasn't obviously working in the pub. So some of our images that we've seen of people outside could well be the Vorses or Vorse children. Veteran landlady and historic inn. The death of Mrs. Sarah Ann Haylock Vorse of the Old Spotted Dog. Upton occurred on Monday night. The deceased was the widow of James Vorse and was 76 years of age. Her association with the Spotted Dog lasted for more than half a century. She came there to reside with her husband after her marriage on the 29th of November 1859, and the whole of her married life and widowhood has been spent in this historic hotel. That's just a little bit. I love things like this because it's real people and real history. I mean, with this description, we've zipped from census records to directories, and we're into the 1940s and 80s and whatnot. (1991), the Spotted Dog, Grant met Watney's, and that was the last listing I could find for that one. So, hope you all found that interesting. And that, ladies and gents, concludes our tour, our on-foot tour, and our little exterior tour of this lovely old pub and the little look into the past. Hope you all enjoyed. Thanks for watching.